It's a one-time only affair in Port St. Lucie in March. Red Sox Nation descends on Tradition Field. Yeah, though your defending world champs are in town, that makes for some mixed marriages and some young Bo Sox fans finding their way into Port St. Lucie, where every ticket is sold as City presents spring training baseball this afternoon. The New York Mets play the Boston Red Sox. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Tradition Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you. Ralph Connor joins us in a little bit. And so Red Sox Nation is here. The defending world champion Red Sox here in Port St. Lucie for the only time this spring. Very much the same cast of characters that swept the Colorado Rockies in the World Series last year. And Terry Francona brings his group to Port St. Lucie today.
Well, 21st century has been very good to the Red Sox and Red Sox Nation. 2 world championships, and last year really, as Gary said, the sweep over the Rockies was kind of put the icing on the cake. They are the team to beat again going in. And what everybody looks at, usually in the past with the Red Sox, they talk about their hitting. Well, it's their pitching.
Well, they were due a good decade. They had 8 lousy ones in a row, you know.
I understand that.
Well, it's a big day for the Mets as well, because for the first time this spring, they have their 2 Carloses united. Carlos Beltran back in the lineup for the first time since off-season knee surgery, and Carlos Delgado back in the lineup for the first time since suffering an impingement to his hip a week ago.
Well, of course, you know, Beltran, the Gold Glover, a very important cog in the Mets lineup. Mets taking it slow with him. This is his first game back. Delgado's a little bit more problematic, a little more troublesome, a little more worrisome. He's had that hip problem. He had a cortisone shot up in New York. This is his first game back. He's been hitting off a tee and soft toss. So I know he's anxious to get back there, and the Mets really want to evaluate him. And they need a big year from Delgado this year.
And adding to the excitement here today, Johan Santana makes his 3rd start of the spring, and he pitches against a kid who might have been traded for him had the Red Sox chosen to in John Lester.
Well, Santana's 3rd start, and have obviously the acquisition of the winter. Paid him the big bucks. He is a premier pitcher. It's his 3rd start, coming off a very good 2nd start. And John Lester for the Red Sox is a great story right in its own.
So it's a big show here in Port St. Lucie today. Every seat sold. The berm is going to be packed. Johan Santana takes the mound. John Maine did an outstanding job yesterday in 4 scoreless innings. Santana takes his turn today. It's the Mets and the Red Sox coming up from Port St. Lucie. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by City, the official sponsor of Mets spring training on SNY. And by Subway. Try the big hot pastrami sandwich on roasted garlic bread at Subway restaurants for a limited time. Subway, eat fresh. It's the Mets and the Red Sox at Tradition Field, and the manager of the defending world champion Bo Sox, Terry Francona, stopped in to talk with our Kevin Burkhardt right before the game today. It's an involved spring for the Red Sox, trying to get healthy and trying to get ready to head to Japan to begin the season in just a couple of weeks. And Kevin caught up with Tito Francona before the game.
Terry, first of all, you know, 2nd time you're doing this year's spring training as a World Series champion, and you have your team for the most part back. I mean, that's got to feel pretty good, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. We're at a point in spring training where we're going through the normal aches and pains. I know the Mets don't want to hear that from anybody, but because we're leaving early, you know, we feel some sense of urgency to get guys back on the field. So again, we're fighting at the light. You know, you make spring training trips and everything feels a little disjointed. So we need to get back home and have a few good work days and get going.
How much does that change everything? Change your routine, change everything getting ready when you're making that big overseas trip, and it's a week from Wednesday.
We're trying not to let it.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing. We know we have decisions to make. We have to make some decisions early, which is unfortunate. But you deal with what you deal with, but we're not going to let it interrupt our routine. I think we feel like we'd be making some serious mistakes that way.
John Lester will start today, and, you know, when you think about what he's gone through and then coming through with the big World Series win last year, I can imagine where your feelings for him and what he's done and what he's accomplished.
Yeah, it's hard not to, when it's over, it's hard not to be emotional. He's a great kid. He was a great kid before everything he went through. We got a lot of our guys in our locker room pulling for him, which I think is stating the obvious. He's a solid kid.
Terry, thanks. Good luck.
You're very welcome.
Well, it was certainly impressive to everybody in the baseball world the way John Lester capped his return from cancer by pitching the clinching game in the World Series last year for the Red Sox. Today he goes up against Johan Santana, the Mets' prize acquisition. 3rd start of the spring for Johan. All the action coming up from Tradition Field. Toby
Ellsbury with a fastball inside as Santana makes his third start of the spring. Ellsbury cracks it foul, 1-1. Well, for Santana, this is the lineup he'll face for the Red Sox, brought to you by Citi. Ellsbury fighting Coco Crisp to try to win the everyday center field job, and off what he accomplished late last season and in the World Series. Why not? Jason Varitek, Kevin Youkilis, the only other regulars on hand for the game today. And it's hit up the middle and a base hit for Ellsbury to start off the afternoon. So the speedy Jacoby Ellsbury reaches, and the Red Sox are in business.
Well, there's Johan Santana's numbers from last year. I think critical here is the innings pitched and strikeouts. I know he had an off year for giving up more home runs than he normally does. Led the American League with 33 home runs, but his strikeouts didn't come down. His walks, he doesn't walk anybody. What an acquisition for the Mets. It was the deal of the offseason.
Jed Lowry playing second base today. Of course, that'll be Dustin Pedroia during the regular season. Pedroia was actually supposed to play today, but he fell ill and so was scratched from the lineup. Terry Francona's team yesterday played up in Vero Beach, and the Red Sox, who play on the other coast of Florida and Fort Myers, flew from Fort Myers to Vero.
Oh, how nice.
And back last night and then flew over here today. It's a little different. Airline travel in spring training.
Very rare. I know the Cardinals, we did it one year. But in the old days, they used to schedule, when you're on the West Coast, they'd schedule you all up and down the East Coast for around 3 days or 4 days, play the East Coast teams, and then fly back. And we had the option, whether you wanted to fly or take the bus.
Santana coming in with the fastball, and Lowry fouls it off 1-2.
Now, I say we had the option, Gary, was because there was a very short runway at Al Lang Field. Remember that airport right over Al Lang Field, where the auditorium was over the left center field fence? There was a short airstrip there. But we were overloaded on like a 2-propeller plane, and they said, you know, we're going to have to come in fast and put the brakes on. It's your option. We got a bus for you, or you can fly.
You're feeling like Buddy Holly in The Big Bopper. Off the corner, and it's 2-2.
I flew, and he would tell you that the pilot put the brakes on.
I guarantee you one thing. If Rusty Staub had been on that team, he would not have been on that flight. That's for sure. Rusty was one of the worst flyers I've ever seen.
Oh, White Knuckle Express.
2-2 to Lowry. And Santana gets him with the changeup. One away.
Well, they got him with a fastball or a cutter in, down and in. That's a fastball inside corner.
Took a little off. Well, here's Jason Varitek, the Red Sox captain. Switch hitter, hit 17 home runs last year.
And we're going to show you the Met City defense. You see the regulars back. Most important, Delgado is in at first base. Church is back. Easley's back. Schneider's back.
And not seen there. Beltran back.
Yes.
DH today.
Well, he's coming out throwing the fastball today.
Well, the changeup has been magnificent all spring.
Well, what I've seen from Brian Schneider so far, Gary, behind the plate is he likes to call aggressively in, establish the fastball, which I think is, I love. Look at him sitting up in again.
In the air to left. And Brady Clark circling. And Wind carries it. He lost it. And it falls. And everybody's safe. Well, there's a little breeze and there's a little glare. It's certainly not a bright sunny day.
Well, he's got his glasses on. There he goes to shield. A little bit too late with the glove, possibly, to shield his eyes from the sun. But they can get glary down here. And nothing the runner here can do. Ellsbury, this is a routine fly ball. Just make sure you don't get forced out, which he does not.
It just appeared from the route that Clark took to that ball that he never really had a great idea where it was. If you look at the sky conditions, right now the sun is really hiding. But I guess you can still lose a ball in the glare.
You can lose the ball maybe in the camouflage in with the white clouds.
Now you're pulling my leg, right?
What was that famous line? I won't go with what Harry Carey said, right?
Kevin Youkilis hit .288 last year. 2 on and 1 out, so some early difficulty for Santana to have to cope with. And he throws one by Youkilis, 1-1. Youkilis now established as a full-time first baseman for the Red Sox. Every once in a while, they'll throw Big Papi out there, much to their chagrin sometimes. Nice. Schneider blocks it nicely, and it's 2-1.
Well, watch Schneider here. Look at it, perfect. Get his body right in front. Tough chance. That was a changeup. But that's beautiful fundamentals right there. And you got runners on first and second. That can change the whole complex of the first inning with runners advancing to second and third.
2-1 to Youkilis. And the change, we run around, and it's 2-2.
Gosh. Did he? It's almost automatic today. Let's see. I don't know.
And that one called by the home plate umpire, Scott Berry. Didn't even ask for help.
Let's see if he tries to come in with a fastball here.
A little high, and 3-2.
He's got some giddy up on his fastball, 91 miles per hour. It was a little bit of a slow gun the other day.
Well, this is not as hard as he'll throw when he's in mid-season form. He'll get it up to 94, sometimes 95. Three and 2 to Youkilis. Santana making sure Ellsbury's not going anywhere.
Well, Ellsbury is a definite stolen base threat. Brief minor league career. Geez, last year in AAA, stole 54 bases.
And 9 for 9 in the big leagues. Checks his swing, and he went around, and Youkilis is down on strikes. First base umpire Travis Reininger making the call, so a couple of check swings dooming Youkilis' at bat.
Another changeup.
Meanwhile, a little miscommunication as that pitch was thrown. Damian Easley had gone to cover second base looking for a pickoff throw, and Santana, I guess, didn't realize. So 2 out and 2 on. Here's Brandon Moss playing right field today. Moss had 25 at bats for the Red Sox last year, played most of the year in AAA. And he pops it up. Reyes trailing. Clark coming in, calls him off, and handles this one without incident. And so Santana's able to work his way through a sun-splashed first inning. Mets come up against John Lester in the bottom of the first, no score.
The Jays are in Dunedin gearing up for the upcoming season and are ready to challenge the Red Sox and Yankees for the East Division title. Get a preview of the Jays in Grapefruit League action leading up to opening day. Jays, Yankees, tomorrow.
Tradition Field, we go to the bottom of the first inning. Mets and Red Sox no score. Here's your Mets starting lineup brought to you by Citi, and nice to see Carlos Beltran's name in that lineup for the first time this spring after getting both knees cleaned out during the offseason. Carlos Delgado back after a week on the sidelines because of an impingement in his hip. Mets still toy around with a left field job with Moises Alou out, and they'll go to battle today against John Lester.
Well, John Lester, of course, was diagnosed with the cancer, went to chemotherapy. He had 18 starts last year in minor leagues as he came back. Missed the second half of the prior season. He came back up with Boston, was 4-0 in 12 starts, and also won the game, the final game in that World Series.
Jose Reyes leads off, and Reyes hits the first pitch on the ground to Keith Ginter, who throws him out, 1 away. So 1 pitch and 1 retired.
And the defense for we got the Mets defense up there. I'll ad-lib it here. We got the Red Sox out there, brought to you by Citi. Yeah, that's a good one.
Very nice ad-lib there.
Thank you.
There's Brady Clark.
That makes the truck happy.
34-year-old Brady Clark battling for a job. And it's a wide open affair in left field right now.
Abracadabra.
Oh, look at that.
It's another team. What team is that? It's the Red Sox, brought to you by Citi. Kevin Youkilis at first base. Jason Varitek, the name you know, and this young man out there in center field, Jason Ellsbury, #1 draft pick out of Oregon State. They are just high on him.
And looking at that last slider by John Lester, you can understand why the Red Sox are high on him. It was interesting talking to Terry Francona before the game today. All the New York writers went over. They wanted to get his thoughts about Santana landing with the Mets rather than potentially landing with the Red Sox, who were certainly in the mix in those conversations with the Twins. And Clark drives one into right center. And Brady Clark picks up his 7th hit of the spring with a 1-out single on an 0-2 pitch.
Well, Brady Clark here hitting the ball where it's pitched. Ball's down the strike zone. Wanted to come in, got it out over the plate. Drives it right into right center field. Very nicely done. Now Brady Clark's trying to get the left field position. Angel Pagan is also battling it out, having a great spring. And with Alou down, there will be a platoon out there in left field, Gary, more than likely.
Could be some Damian Easley, could be some Jose Valentin. You don't know right now how Willie's going to mix it up and who's actually going to be on the roster to be a part of that as David Wright steps in. Anyway, Francona was talking about, he said, I can't really address it directly. He said, let me put it this way. He said, I love our young pitchers, talking about John Lester and Clay Buchholz, who are the youngsters who are going to play a big role in the Red Sox rotation this year, especially with Schilling out for half a year, and Beckett's got back spasms. Good fastball, and it's 0-2. He said, sometimes we tend to overrate our own prospects. We all do that. He said, but I'm not overrating anybody here. He said, we love these guys.
Well,
you can see why.
Well, it's also not only their young pitchers, it's their young players they've drafted. Their Red Sox are really building up their farm system, which is a credit to their scouting system. That's where it all starts.
0-2 to right, and the slider misses. You know, it's interesting. We're talking about Lester having the cancer, which was diagnosed in July of 2007. Just a month before that, he pitched against the Mets at Fenway Park. Remember that series that the Red Sox swept the Mets? Pedro's big return, and Lester pitched great.
Yes, he did.
And then a month later, the problem emerged. And he went through some horribly debilitating chemotherapy. He said, I get the chemo on a Thursday, and I couldn't do anything until Sunday. It was so bad, and he lost 25 pounds in the process. And this spring compared to last spring, he's the picture of health now, and they have no concerns about him at all.
Definitely give you a different and better perspective on life, I would think.
Wright hits one foul. Well, they babied him last year. There's no question about it. And Lester kind of resented it at the time. He felt he could push a little quicker and get to the big leagues faster and make more than what ended up being 11 starts in the majors. But he says now he appreciates the fact that they held him back, and now he's ready to go full bore.
And once you get a taste of the big leagues, you never want to go back down to the minors.
Clark at first and one away. First inning with no score. 1-2 to David Wright. And he takes the fastball off the plate. David put up MVP type numbers last year. Won his first Gold Glove. Won a Silver Slugger Award.
Well, the Gold Glove, he's done a lot of hard work for David to make himself a much better fielder. And he's worked hard every spring training with Sandy Alomar at third base to improve his fielding, and he's been rewarded. Congratulations to David on joining the Gold Glovers.
The fraternity.
Yes.
Do you have an initiation ceremony? Lester's 2-2, and he struck him out for the second out. So 2 away.
Fastball right there. Got him. Beat him outside, knee high.
So 2 out, and here is the initial spring training at bat for Carlos Beltran. Mets have gone very slow with him. Not quite ready to play the field, he says. Starting and stopping is something of an issue, but ready to take his swings, and so he's DHing today. He and Luis Castillo each had pretty much the same procedure this offseason. Debridement of both their knees, trying to relieve some discomfort. Castillo still not ready to go, but Beltran in there today, at least to swing. Breaking ball, boxed around by Varitek. Clark takes off, and he's safe. Good base running by Brady Clark. That ball didn't get far from Jason Varitek.
Well, the key to that is not hesitating. Gets good instincts, little ball in the dirt, nicely blocked. If you don't hesitate and you break right from the get-go, this is the result right there. So good heads up by Clark.
So he's in scoring position with 2 down. And, you know, yesterday, Willie Randolph was singing Pagan's praises for stretching a bloop single into a double and saying, you know, that's how you make a team. Well, if you're Brady Clark, you take note of that. And you make sure that the manager sees you make an aggressive play like that. Down to third. And Keith Ginter makes the toss. Beltran not able to run full speed quite yet. And the Mets are done in the bottom of the first. Santana back to the mound for the second with no score.
Oh man, that is hot.
KFC's new Wicked Crunch Big Box meal may be more heat than you can handle. Our crunch sandwich spiced up extra hot with hot wings, fries, salad, and a drink. Taste lives at KFC.
Okay. DHing today for the Red Sox will lead it off in the second. Both Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz made the trip to Vero Beach yesterday for the Red Sox game with the Dodgers. Neither is here today. Remember Manny's trip to Port St. Lucie last year and the at-bat against Joe Smith? Were you here for that one?
No, I wasn't.
That was...
His heart wasn't into it?
No, I think Joe threw him a couple of dastardly sliders and surprised Manny and struck him out, and it was really one of the things that got everybody's eyes open about Joe Smith last year. Ryan Church grabs the fly ball by Cash for the first out. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, Gary, just to follow up your point before, you were talking about Francona, how he was saying how he loves young kids. In fact, he was talking about how he texts John Lester a lot in the offseason just to tell him that much. But I was talking to Theo Epstein, the general manager of the Red Sox, and he said, look, but we have loved to have Santana, of course. You know, look, and he said, contrary to the reports, we never pulled out. It's not like we pulled out. He said our offer was on the table. In fact, they had 2 separate offers to the Twins for Santana. But bottom line is the Twins told him they liked the Mets offer better. So bottom line is Epstein, though, even though Santana's from the Mets, still happy with the young guys.
You know, what you're saying then is quite contrary to popular perception, which is that the Yankees and Red Sox were both out of the mix at the time the Twins accepted the Mets offer.
Yeah, he nixed that today, Gary.
Santana, a Gold Glover, knocks it down and throws out Alex Cora for the second out.
And that was the thing, because all the New York writers were over there as well. And he's like, look, that's wrong. He's like, you know, bottom line is we never pulled out. He's like, we had 2 different offers. You know, the reports of the players in the one offer, he said, were not entirely true. So he made it seem like there were a mix of those players in 2 separate offers that were on the table at the last minute. bottom line is Twins like what the Mets had offered better.
That's fascinating if that's actually the case, because I think there's been a tendency of a lot of people to downplay what the Twins wound up accepting from the Mets. And if it's true that the Red Sox offer was still out there, I think that changes the perception quite a bit.
Well, I think one of the I think one of the priorities for Minnesota also was they weren't going to trade Santana in the league. They wanted to get him out of the league. And for once the National League gets an American League star. It's been a trend where the National League teams have traded over a lot of the former National League stars to the American League, and thus their dominance of late in the All-Star game.
But if you're the Twins and you only play the Red Sox 6 or 7 times a season, do you care that much?
I think the more importantly is you don't want to trade within division.
Right. Keith Ginter pops it up foul and out of play. Yeah, I mean, they weren't going to trade him to the Indians. You knew that.
You may have to face him in a playoff. You never know. So they must have thought very high. Obviously, they thought very highly of the Met prospects. I'm surprised that there wasn't a little more in there. I thought Omar stole them, to be honest with you.
The one thing that the Red Sox deal, at least the way it was reported, seemed to offer the Twins that the Mets deal didn't, was more immediate pitching help. In other words, if John Lester was part of the deal, he steps in and takes Santana's spot in the rotation. Whereas what they ended up getting from the Mets, they don't have that. Swing and miss, and Santana strikes out Ginter. Third strikeout in the first 2 innings. Santana not only doing it with his arm, but with his gold glove as well. And Santana through the top of the second with no score. Mets single game tickets for the 2008 season at Shea are on sale now. Visit Mets.com or get to the phone and get your tickets at 718-507-TIXX for the final season at Shea. Home second inning, and nice to see Carlos Delgado back in the lineup. Carlos missing a little more than a week. Went back to New York after suffering some discomfort in his hip. Turned out to be not a big deal. Just an impingement, and he seems to have that worked out now. And this guy, Keith, is going to be so important to the middle of the Mets lineup this year, especially without Lou out for the first month.
There's no question. You saw his numbers there. He had a disappointing year. 11 straight years with 90 RBI or more came to an end last year. And his power numbers were down. He struggled against left-handers. He hit, ironically, he hit 267 against lefties last year. And that was 5 points over his career average, but his home run numbers were down. He only hit 4 against lefties last year.
And, you know, there are no secrets in baseball, less than ever before because of video. And we're seeing it this at bat. We saw it the first couple of games Carlos played this spring. Everybody is pitching him hard inside and making him prove that he can hit that ball.
Yeah, well, he's been flying his shoulder out. Now, he had the bad elbow, and that he was on the disabled list back in 05 with the Mariners with that elbow. But what he's been doing is pulling that front shoulder out too quick, and it's like golf. When you fly open that front shoulder, you're going to slice. Or in baseball, you're going to slow the bat down. You see his career numbers right there.
And they are fantastic.
They're Hall of Fame numbers. There's no question. There's Hojo,
who has worked so hard with Delgado over the last year plus. 3-2 to Carlos.
But getting back to the point here, he is very, very critical to this ball club. If he can come back and have put up the numbers that he did with all those years with Toronto, then I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with.
And just in terms of the lineup balance for the Mets, 3-2, and did he go around? He did. And Lester has his second strikeout, 1 away. I mean, last year when Delgado struggled,
all the fastballs in here, excuse me, and then he got fouled out away. And let's watch his front shoulder. And you can see he just kind of wants to pull out. And it's spring training. It's early.
Last year when Delgado struggled, Willie's answer to that was to drop him in the batting order. And he dropped him at one point down to 7th, but mostly hit him 6th the second half of the year. Well, this year you've got Ryan Church and Brian Schneider, who are going to play most days, both left-hand hitters hitting 7 and 8. And now without Lou out of the lineup, that exacerbates it even more that you've got to have Delgado hitting 5th. Otherwise, you've got that mass of left-hand hitters at the bottom of the lineup.
Oh, I guarantee you, if Delgado can come back, he will hit 4th, and David Wright might move down to the 5th spot.
Damian Easley playing second base today, and he takes a strike. Easley just about fully recovered from that devastating ankle injury he suffered last year, and pronounced himself fit in a hurry on Saturday. Hit a home run in his first game back. Luis Castillo still on the sidelines. 2-1 to Easley. It's interesting. You got Easley batting. You got Church on deck. Damian told us that he's never watched the video of the ankle injury. Church told me yesterday that he's never watched the video of his concussion last week. I guess it's better that way. Popped up, and Alex Cora has the play. 2 out.
And what I've seen the last couple of years, Gary, is the pitchers are starting to throw more inside. And remember, a lot of these guys, and you can see the guys coming back from the medical update there. And there's more. Hang in there. Don't go away. Don't turn that dial.
Well, they're all starting to trickle back into town. But the surprising one was Valentine. The fact that he was able to come back as early as yesterday. They thought he wouldn't be ready until the last week of spring training at the earliest. But in Jose's case, he's a minor league invitee just trying to win a job, and he senses an opportunity now, especially with Al Lou out. He's made it very clear that he's thrown his hat in the ring to be part of that left field mix. Ryan Church returned to the lineup Saturday after suffering the concussion and promptly got hits in his first 2 at-bats, pronouncing himself fit. And this is one of those at-bats for Church who's got to show that he can play every day, in that he's able to play against a tough left-hander like a John Lester.
Well, he was called up in 2004 with the Montreal Expos then. And he's really only had 209 career at-bats against left-handers. So he's primarily been platoon. And last year, Gary, he was given a lot bigger opportunity to play against lefties. He had 118 at-bats, hit only 229 and only 1 home run against lefties. So this is a big break for Ryan Church here. He's going to get an opportunity to play every day and show what he can do.
Lester ahead of him 1-2. And he fouls the slider off. That'll make it to the crowd. And it is a packed house at Tradition Field today.
There you see the numbers on Church last year. And that's a big ballpark he played at, folks, in D.C., RFK Stadium. So 15 home runs there. Most ballparks, that's over 20 home runs in the course of a season.
Well, the scouts will tell you the big issue with Church is that he tends to get very pull happy. And especially against lefties, has got to go the other way more. But I guess that's true for most lefties. Takes the slider, and it's 2-2.
Unless, of course, you're Ted Williams
or Barry Bonds. Who, by the way, the Mets are not pursuing. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
I love that back page in the Post.
I saw Omar yesterday, and I said, so I mean, there's nothing to this, right? He says, what are you talking about? I said, Bonds, you're not, there's no way you're pursuing him, right? He said, why, who says that? I mean, could you imagine the Mets taking on that circus?
Anybody. Not just the Mets, any of the other teams.
Well, see, I could see a team like a Kansas City or somebody who really needs a boost to their attendance. But why would a team like the Mets, in the position that they're in, take on that headache?
I don't think they are. Pure fantasy.
And so far, you're right, the other 29 teams aren't either.
There's Pedro.
Pedro will not throw against the Red Sox in Fort Myers tomorrow. He'll throw a side session here in Port St. Lucie. And Church does a nice job working the count full to 3-2. Worked himself back from 0-2. Lester's allowed just one base runner. And Church pops it up. Youkilis and Varitek, and Youkilis takes charge. And the Mets are down 1-2-3. Now, Church hung in there well against the lefty, but Lester gets him to pop up. Time for a snack through 2 innings with no score. Good shot from the right field foul pole here at Tradition Field. God, our cameras are everywhere. But Webby must be back today.
He's a voyeur, I'm telling you.
Chris Carter will lead off for the Red Sox. Red Sox picked him up in the deal that sent Willie Mopena to the Nationals, a 3-way deal. He came from Arizona. Carter takes a strike from Santana. Carter playing left field today.
Another product of Stanford University.
Yeah, they got 2 in the lineup
Yes,
today.
they do. Stanford's got always had a fine baseball program.
Jed Lowry, the second baseman, also from Stanford, and Carter has himself a base hit. Leading off in the 3rd. Second hit off Santana, make it the 3rd for the Red Sox. Well, the Big East is getting ready for tourney time, and so is SNY. Our studio crew breaks it all down before it all tips off. The Big East tourney preview presented by Infinity tomorrow at 6:30 only on SNY. Big East tourney begins Wednesday afternoon at the Garden. Here's Jacoby Ellsbury, who singled to center his first time. Ellsbury battling with Coco Crisp for the starting center field job, but Crisp hasn't been able to get in the lineup for the last 8 or 9 days because of a groin injury. I was talking to Dave Magadan, a former Met who's now the hitting instructor for the Red Sox, and he said it's made it a little frustrating because they're trying to figure out what to do with Crisp. And of course the Red Sox have a shorter spring training than everybody else here in Florida. Good fastball on the outside corner, 0-2. Red Sox are going to Japan. There's Mags. Keith Hernandez's successor.
Yes, he was. And he was also a big part of our ball clubs in the 80s when he came up. He gave us the bench, another strong man off the bench. Dave could hit.
1-2 to Ellsbury. And he was one of the great college hitters of all time at the University of Alabama. And he was telling me today his son's going to Alabama.
Really?
Not to play baseball, but to hit the books. He's a legacy with the Tide. Dave had that one great year, 1990, the year after you left.
Yeah, I left, yes.
Finished 3rd in the league in hitting. Ellsbury lays off.
Well, the Mets were in contention that year. They fell off late, correct?
Yep. Yeah, 90, 91, 92 was all about the same story each year. Not so much 92. They kind of fell off the map in 92. But 90 and 91, they were in it till late. But it was just the beginning of a long drought.
Well, Mets are notorious for long droughts.
2-2 to Ellsbury. Breaks his back. Delgado with a nice play gets the force at second. That erases Carter for the first out. Ellsbury reaches, 1 away.
Oh, watch Delgado come to the ball. That cuts the angle right there. Getting to it quick for a chance to turn 2, and it also cuts the angle down. It's the proper way to field that ball. No wasted motion. Just Ellsbury runs too quick.
So here's Jed Lowry, the second baseman. Struck out his first time up. You talk about Stanford and all the players it's produced. It seems as though over the years they've produced more pitchers than position players.
I was actually going to get accepted on a full ride to Stanford, not my grades, but for baseball, my senior year, if I didn't sign.
I'm sorry, you said you had the grades?
I did not. I was going to get under that. What that is, that 15% used to get under the grade point average. That was me.
So you're basically doing what they're now doing at Harvard.
Let me just say,
They were ahead of their time.
A B, yes. A B- average wasn't going to cut it as far as getting into Stanford.
And Santana crackles that fastball on the corner. 0-1.
Ray Young was the manager of the Stanford Indians back then.
Right, before they became the Cardinals and the Cardinal and adopted the tree as their mascot.
It's very politically correct of them.
I still don't understand the tree.
It's part of it's on their seal. It's actually a big redwood.
In the air to left center. Clark. And now Pagan, the center fielder. And that's the second out. I mean, I don't know what the more confusing mascot is, the tree at Stanford or the dog in Georgetown.
The Hoya.
Well, you know what Hoya is.
No, I don't. Tell me.
It's nothing. I mean, it's part of a Latin phrase. Apparently, back in the earlier days when everybody took Latin at Georgetown, the cheerleaders would yell Hoya Saxa, which meant what rocks. I don't even know what that meant, but they just took a piece of that Latin phrase. So they have a dog. And there's no such breed as a Hoya. I know that. Here's Jason Varitek.
Well, Palo Alto, where Stanford is, the city, and that's my neighborhood where I grew up. Just a little bit north of there. Palo Alto in Espanol means tall trees, and they're loaded.
There you go.
They're loaded with sequoias and redwoods all around that area, up in the foothills.
That's not one of the trees they're talking.
No.
Nice catch, Webby.
Leland Stanford, one of the robber barons.
He was in the New York Times crossword puzzle last week.
Founded that school.
Jason Varitek, who went to Georgia Tech, which has, well, they've got several nicknames. They're the Yellow Jackets, they're the Engineers, and they have a bee as a mascot. So there you go. Ellsbury back to the bag.
I hope we're not boring our audience.
And Johan Santana, who comes from the mountain country of Venezuela. Far from the educational environs of Northern California or Atlanta. Change up on the corner, and it's 1-1 to Varitek. Santana's not only had an impact with his changeup on the mound, he's also taught that changeup to Mike Pelfrey, who has changed his grip in accordance to what Santana has shown him. It's not a bad guy to learn from. 1-1 to Varitek. He lays off. 2-1. That fastball 93 on the gun. That's the hardest pitch we've registered this spring from Santana.
He throws hard, and it complements his breaking ball and, of course, his changeup, and he knows how to pitch.
You almost forget about his slider because the changeup is so good. And he can make the changeup move both ways.
I think one of the best changeups I ever faced was Andy Messersmith had a great changeup. And we're going to get Mr. Kiner in here, in the fourth inning? And we're going to ask Ralph what was the greatest changeup he ever faced when we get him on the air. Glad to have Ralph here.
It's an exceptional treat, as it always is. But the Mets are blessed with a number of pitchers who have outstanding changeups now. I mean, Pedro Martinez, and Juaner Sanchez, Aaron Heilman. Even Billy Wagner's throwing a changeup now.
It seems to be the pitch du jour.
Struck him out. Santana gets Varitek to end the inning. 4 strikeouts for Santana, looking sharp in his 3 innings so far today. Mets and Red Sox still no score. Mets 2008 season tickets, plans, packs, and single game tickets are on sale now. Visit Mets.com or get to the phone and get your tickets at 718-507-TIXX for the final climactic season at Shea. Well, this guy's been the talk of the camp so far, Angel Pagan. Now in a heated battle for that left field job. Vacated by the hernia injury suffered by Johan Santana.
Well, there's always one guy, it seems, in spring that has a great spring and opens eyes of management or a manager. Pagan last year with the Cubs in 71 games, got 148 at-bats, hit .264, a lifetime .255 hitter.
And a switch hitter takes the changeup off the plate. Well, Pagan spent the first 6 years of his professional career in the Mets organization before the Cubs got him and gave him his first big league taste. But the thing that Willie Randolph was talking about yesterday, that it hasn't just been Pagan's bat, that he's liked the way he's looked in the outfield, he's liked the way he's run the bases, he says he's shown a good feel for the game. That wasn't always Pagan's reputation in Chicago. In fact, Lou Piniella said some rather negative things about Pagan and his baseball instinct. 2-2 to Angel, so he's had something to prove here, and so far, at least, in Willie's assessment, he's proven that. Well,
the key is to be consistent with it. A lot of times, a player can get criticized, gets traded, and has new motivation, but you've got to maintain it year in, year out.
2-2 to Pagan. He takes it high.
Lester's throwing good today. He hasn't had a great breaking ball. He's been a little erratic with his breaking ball, but he certainly throws hard.
John Lester from Tacoma, Washington. Just got a piece.
There's a slider right there. That's where he wants to put it all the time. Against those right-handers.
Struck him out. And away with a fastball and got Pagan to chase it. Third strikeout for.
That's kind of textbook pitching right there. Slider sets up the fastball away.
John Lester, undoubtedly one of the great feel-good stories in baseball last year. Terry Francona readily admits that when he saw John's parents after they won the World Series last year, he just broke down crying. The fact that the kid was able to come back from cancer to not only pitch again, but to win the deciding game of the World Series. Brian Schneider takes a strike. Schneider, who sat out some time with a hamstring injury, returned to the lineup Saturday and promptly hit a home run. Brian's not a big home run hitter, but can be good for 10 or 12 a year. Hit 6 last year with the Nationals. But mostly the Mets got him for his defense and his ability with the pitching staff. Reyes waits next. Good curve for a strike. 1-2.
Boy, I'll say. Watch the shoulder, or he just buckled him right there with that breaking pitch.
1-2 to Schneider. And he struck him out. So back-to-back strikeouts for Lester. 2 away.
Oh, another good slider. So
it's going to be interesting, Keith, to see how much Schneider plays against lefties this year. You've got Ramon Castro sitting there coming off his best offensive season.
Well, I think Ramon the last 2 seasons has been nothing but a plus offensively. I think that there's going to be a platoon role there big time, Gary. I think that's my feeling.
I mean, with Montreal and Washington, Schneider played every day. And a lot of people felt that he played too much and that it really hurt his offense over the long term.
Well, you don't lose anything defensively with Castro. Castro's a good backstop, calls a good game.
Reyes bounced out his first trip.
I like Ramon. Ramon's got pop in the bat, hits in the clutch.
The biggest thing Ramon needs to do is he needs to stay healthy for a full season. And that's been a challenge the last 2 years. Reyes fouls off the bunt attempt, 1-2. Mets have been rife with Reyes's this spring. At one point on Saturday, they had 3 in the game at the same time. Janus, the young second baseman, and Rene, a veteran outfielder.
Didn't we have 3 Carloses at one point last year or 2 years ago?
At least. Well, we had Delgado, Beltran, and Gomez last year.
Yes.
Playing together. Reyes yesterday led off the first inning with a bang. Ball got out of here in a heartbeat. His first home run of the spring. 3-1 from Lester, and he takes a strike.
I'd be a little less inclined. I know they wanted Jose to take a lot more pitches.
Not that pitch.
3-1, 2 out. You get a fastball, take a rip at it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, that when you talk to Willie Randolph about Reyes, that's why he says for all of the skill and all of the development, he's still a work in progress, because it's not just saying be more patient, it's knowing when to be patient and when not to.
Right, and be more patient as far as his selection of stolen bases. If he says like he said, he got tired last year.
3-2, and he walked it. So Reyes is aboard with 2 out. First walk given up by Lester.
That just makes it all the more remarkable to me that I played with Lou Brock, and when Lou Brock broke Ty Cobb's record and broke the single season record, Lou was well in his 30s. Lou was just a physical specimen, and he didn't do anything in the offseason. Lou never ran or nothing. Came to spring training like it was July. It's the perfect weight. He never put on a pound his whole career.
I mean, if you think about it, Ricky Henderson really wasn't that different. Another guy who just had an incredible body, and it seemed to perpetuate itself well into his 40s.
So it just kind of makes me wonder that these guys come so fit, they're year-round in training, and if some of them are getting tired late in the season, as they claim, then are they overdoing it in the offseason? You got to have something in the tank come the final 6 weeks of the season.
1-0 to Brady Clark, and he takes a strike.
I mean, I used to always, and that was pretty much the norm. You'd come 10 pounds heavy in spring, and you'd lose around 5, and
nobody plays their way into shape anymore.
Like, then by the end of May, you were down to your fighting weight, and you're ready in August, September.
I just think the whole concept of fitness has changed. Reyes runs. Clark hits a slow bouncer. Lester calmly throws him out. And that'll do it for the Mets in the bottom of the 3rd. Ralph Kiner joins us as we go to the 4th. Mets and Red Sox, no score. We go to the 4th inning. Mets and Red Sox, no score. And there he is, our Hall of Famer, Ralph Kiner. Welcome, Ralph.
Hi, Gary. Thanks a lot.
Mets are in their 21st season here in Port St. Lucie. And before that, trained over in St. Petersburg, which, of course, Keith was familiar with from his days training with the Cardinals. It had to be such culture shock when they moved over here.
Well, this town has really changed tremendously. It was nothing when they came here. They used baseball to bring in the people.
Kevin Youkilis lifts it to center where Pagan is waiting. 1 pitch and 1 out for Santana.
It got the nickname Port St. Lonesome, and let me tell you, it was lonesome here for 2 months.
Keith, how did you get around there in those early days, eh? Because you had no place to eat.
I stayed out on the beach, and there was Conky Joe's out there. It was a good place. Half of it got blown off in the hurricanes a couple of years ago. I just actually went back there and ate with my wife the other day, and one of the off days I had, we drove up. But there wasn't a whole lot to do, that's for sure. But, in spring training, you're busy. You're out here all day. You're tired.
Well, you say there wasn't a whole lot to do.
Wait a minute now. I want to hear that again. You got tired?
Well, it nothing to do at night, so I was forced to go to bed early.
I believe that.
I was forced to go to bed early.
All right.
Weren't you just intimating before that you never got tired? Brandon Moss takes the fastball in tight.
Rob, we were talking about the changeup of Johan Santana, which is outstanding, and how Andy Messersmith was the toughest change I ever faced. What's the toughest change you ever faced?
I thought the Dodgers had two of the best. Johnny Padres had a great change, and also Carl Erskine. And they had two great changes, but he does it differently. They use the changeup when they're behind in the count. He uses it to strike people out. It's really a different kind of a approach.
Skidded out to Reyes, who throws out Moss for the second out. Well, you think that's just Santana, or do you think that the whole concept of using the changeup has changed a little bit over the years?
I think the change has become another pitch that they've perfected to where they have good ones. And usually a pitcher like, say, Erskine or whatever, he'd change up on a 2-ball, no strikeout. And my whole theory then was not to swing at it, because you take it, you're off balance, off stride, and take it and look for something else. When they use it for a strikeout pitch, you got to be a little more prepared.
Kevin Cash swings over that changeup, and it's 1-1.
Did you have success off Erskine and Padres?
I hit Carl real well. Didn't hit against Padres much. He came up a little bit later. But Carl I hit well. But he also had a good curveball.
Matt Wise getting ready to pitch after Santana, who's trying to finish up his 4-inning stint, having allowed just 3 hits this afternoon. Actually, looking at the scoreboard, they have 2 hits and an error. Did they give Brady Clark an error, that ball that he lost in the sun?
They couldn't have. I mean, they can, but
anything goes here.
No, apparently they did. On Jason Varitek's ball in the first, so that makes Santana's line look a little better. 3-1 to shallow right, easily retreating. Church coming on. No collision this time. And Church has it to end the inning. So Santana completes his 3rd outing as a Met. A brilliant 4 innings for Johan. Out of the berm. By the way, I sat out on the berm yesterday. It is magnificent.
You were the one getting mobbed for autographs.
No, nobody. Everybody left me alone. It was great. David Wright takes a strike from John Lester. David struck out his first time up.
David looks fit.
Doesn't he always? And he has himself the Mets' 2nd hit of the day.
He looks lighter to me. He just looks a little bit lighter, more fit.
David uses the power that he has, a good fastball, and he hits the ball hard to left field, and he is some sort of ball player, this guy. He works hard. He gives you 100% effort. He's the spokesman for the ball club. He does all the things you want. Can't be luckier than that.
David's been around for, what, 4 years now? As Beltran fouls it off. And from the day that he arrived, you look at him and you say, okay, where's the flaw? And in 4 years, nobody's found one.
Well, if he had one, it wasn't there. I mean, you didn't see it.
I mean, it's incredible.
Well, he had one problem. He had a throwing problem, and he got rid of that. And he's had the Gold Glove now. With Keith has monopoly on Gold Gloves, but he's got one.
I mean, he's the nicest kid you could ask for. He's a tough player. He works hard at his craft. As you say, he's the spokesman for the ball club. He does charitable events left, right, and sideways. He's just an amazing figure. And you know, people talk about him being the equivalent of a Derek Jeter for the Yankees. And I think in some way, he hasn't won championships the way Jeter has, but in terms of his public persona, I think in some ways he's even more outgoing and more giving of himself than Derek is. And you couldn't ask for a better guy to be the face of your franchise.
He's really a good front man, and the thing about him, he was there in September last year when the Mets did not play well. He had a great September, as did Lou, and that was it. And that's when you really have to be the guy that stands up and said, I'll do the best I can and do it.
Remember, Keith, that game in Philadelphia, that last game of the 4-game series when they got swept and they lost, what, 10 to 9, whatever.
Seesaw game.
Right, Wagner ended up giving it up. And Wright had as good a game as you can possibly have that day in the midst of everything else that was going on around him.
He practically willed that team to victory, and
double play ball to third, and the turn by Lowry, and they get the double play.
Just to get back on that point, that tailor-made double play, is that when we were waiting in line at the airport to go through security on the tarmac, I just felt compelled to go up to David and say, that was one of the finest games I've ever seen a major leaguer play that you played today. It was just that kind of game, and it was a losing effort.
Well, that's one time when you really do the job and you can't get any credit for it because you lose the ball game. But he was really an outstanding player for the Mets in that last month. And there's Delgado now. He's, as you guys were talking about earlier, Delgado is the key to this ball club. And the thing about him, and we watched him so far this spring, they're pitching him inside. He got his hand broken in the last game of the year by Willis when he was hit by a pitch ball in his first at bat. But they're always going to pitch him inside. And one of the things about that is he's backed off the plate. He also has quit trying to pull the ball inside. And he's got to learn to take the pitch off the plate. One thing about him, one thing you have to do, and one of the best in the world, the best maybe, at least that I saw, was Ted Williams. You have to take pitches that even are borderline strikes until you have to swing, and that's what Williams did so well. He would not hit the little outside curveball until he had to. And then he'd have to swing and keep him from being called out. But one thing you have to do is learn that strike zone so well.
Well, so what you're saying is you can't be afraid to fall behind in the count.
No, you can't. You have to go down. You have to have the guts to go down to 2 strikes. And when young players come up, they don't have that. They swing at the first pitch, no matter what it is. Ed Greenberg is a great example of that. When he came up on the Mets, he swung at the first pitch all the time. He didn't want to strike out.
And you think a lot of that comes from the fear of getting to 2 strikes?
I think so, definitely. It's a psychological part of the game, and strikeouts are supposed to be bad for you and the team. Of course, Dick Stewart, he said I was the most valuable player on the team. I struck out a lot. And I said, why? He said, that way I don't hit him the double plays.
You hear some funny things when you stick around this game long enough, don't you?
I really do. He says, he was playing with the Boston Red Sox when he said, I'm the MVP of this club. Struck out 140 times.
1-2 to Delgado, and he got him on the inside corner. Boy, John Lester put on quite a performance in his 4 innings. 5 strikeouts. A matchup of masterful lefties who almost got traded for each other. Santana and Lester, no score. Visit the official online shop of the Mets at Mets.com. Browse the largest selection of authentic spring training gear, including clubhouse caps and T-shirts, jerseys, sweatshirts, and more. Get your spring training gear straight from the source. Shop the Mets.com shop. Matt Wise takes over the pitching for the Mets as we go to the 5th inning.
Well, you see his numbers last year. He kind of fell off late in the season, of course. Hit a batsman for the Reds in the face, and well, he just didn't seem to recover from it. Look at his August numbers. He really hardly pitched. Pitched in 4 2/3 in August, and only 4 1/3 in September.
A changeup for a strike, and we were talking about Met pitchers with good changeups, and Wise certainly has one of those.
Well, he's going to bolster that bullpen. That's why the Mets acquired Matt Wise.
The right field, and Ryan Church has it lined up. Cora retired for the first out. Well, Johan Santana could not have been much better today. 4 innings, 50 pitches, allowed just 2 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. And in his 3rd outing, certainly his best so far.
Getting back to Alex Cora, the batter that flied out to right field. He had a game that you would never believe. He had a game where he batted and had 18 pitches thrown to him, and 12 of them were with 2 strikes. He was up at bat 13 minutes and 56 seconds. Can you believe that?
That's hanging in there.
That's but they got to look at the other side. The pitcher was Clement, and he got the ball over all that time. He didn't walk it. I just can't believe anybody could be at bat 13 minutes and 56 seconds.
Sounds like a Richie Ashburn at bat.
It really does. Well, he fouled the ball off, yeah. And Cora fouled off 12 pitches.
0-2 to Keith Ginter. And Wise misses with the fastball, 1-2. Well, Matt Wise has had all manner of odd thing happen to him, and certainly the misfortune of hitting Pedro Lopez in the face was part of that. Line foul. But he's maintained a terrific sense of humor about all that's befallen him, between slicing his finger on a salad tongs last year and smacking his head against the dugout roof, walking off the field. But this is a guy who, when he was at his best 3 years ago with the Brewers, was a tremendous asset in the bullpen. And we've seen a lot of that this spring.
Speaking of hitting batters in the face, the Red Sox had a player named, let's see if I can remember the name, Caniglaro.
Right, Tony Caniglaro.
He was hit by Hamilton in the face, and he ruined his career.
That was 1967. Jack Hamilton, that was before or after he pitched for the Mets?
Before.
And the big story behind that was that Jack Hamilton threw a spitball, and they said that it was a wet one that was sinking. It ran flat into his face at the last minute.
Well, that was such a tragedy because, Tony Caniglaro, I believe he was the youngest man ever to win a home run championship, right?
He was really a great star at the early part of his career.
And, he was from Massachusetts, big star with the Red Sox. And, he came back, but was never the same.
Never could overcome the being hit.
And his brother Billy Caniglaro never really was quite the player, wasn't the player that Tony was. And I always remember that photo in the paper when Caniglaro was in the hospital in bed with had the big black eye under where he got hit.
He tore his eye up and broke the zygomal bone, and he really ruined his total career.
Ginter bounces another one foul.
That was back in the days when Rico Petrocelli was playing third and Yaz was in left. Boomer was at
George Scott
first base.
And guess what? I had lunch about 2 weeks ago with Dominic DiMaggio.
Speaking of Red Sox greats.
Red Sox great, and he's 91 years of age. Mentally is as sharp as he can be, and he's the nicest guy you ever want to meet. And has a little problem walking, but other than that, he's really in good shape.
When Dominic DiMaggio played for the Red Sox, they had a song out in Boston, Better Than His Brother Joe, Dominic DiMaggio.
Oh, really?
He had to be in Boston to appreciate it.
Well,
I don't think
that's a stretch.
The songwriter took it a little bit far.
To right field, and another chance for Ryan Church for the second out.
But Dominic was talking about great people, and he played for Lefty O'Doul, who was a pitcher one time in the major leagues, went back to the minor leagues, and came back to the majors as a hitter. Hit .399 1 year in the major leagues. And O'Doul ought to be in the Hall of Fame. I got to say that about him. He's a guy that got Japanese baseball started in Japan. He brought over great teams to play in Japan, and he was a force behind the growing up of baseball in that country.
Oh, O'Doul was a legend in San Francisco, right?
They owned the town. They really did. He was a great manager there and one of the great hitting instructors of all time. And when Joe DiMaggio was in a slump, which I doubt would happen very often, he would go to O'Doul to get him out of it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did O'Doul stay in the Pacific Coast League to a rather advanced age before he came to the big leagues?
He came up as a pitcher and then went back down because he hurt his arm and came back to the major leagues and then went back and was a manager there for years and years with the San Francisco Seals. And then he managed at San Diego one year and was a very popular man. He had a bar in San Francisco that we all went to.
That's right. And, you know, there were players who stayed in the Pacific Coast League who could have come to the majors because it was a good lifestyle.
They got more money in the minor leagues in the Pacific Coast League than they could ever get in the major leagues at that time. And in fact, there were players that played for Pacific Coast League that made over $20,000 a year.
Chris Carter will be held at first. A nice play by Pagan. Boy, there's another feather in the cap for Pagan, holding Carter to a single.
Well, Pagan can play the outfield. And here he covers a lot of ground. Nice pivot. Holds the runner to a single. Nicely done.
Yeah, good throw.
Nice big strong turn by Carter. Plenty of time to get back. Another great hitting coach from San Francisco area was Cookie Lavagetto.
Now, Cookie, of course, was a coach for the Mets in their first year. And he's the guy that broke up the no-hitter by Bill Bevins in the World Series for the Yankees.
Ellsbury bounces one by Delgado, and a couple of two-out hits for the Red Sox. Cookie Lavagetto batting for Eddie Stanky with 2 outs in the ninth.
My dad, during the war, was with the Navy team in Pearl Harbor, and Cookie was over there. And my dad said that he learned more about hitting from Cookie Lavagetto than anybody in his life.
He lived in Oakland when I was in the service in the Navy as a flyer. He was in charge of the recreation at St. Mary's College.
Jed Lowry takes a strike.
That's a pretty good coaching staff in 1962.
Rogers Hornsby,
Rogers Hornsby, Red Ruffing, Cookie Lavagetto. They really had something, but they had no players.
If only they could play.
Yeah, they couldn't play.
Lifted to right, the wind blowing in will hold that one up. And Church gets all 3 putouts in the inning. Matt Wise works around a couple of 2-out hits. Halfway through in Port St. Lucie, Mets and Red Sox still no score. Well, it was 20 years ago. This is now the 21st season that the Mets played spring training in Port St. Lucie. Started out as Thomas J. White Stadium, now known as Tradition Field. A lot of updating and renovating has gone on here over the ensuing 20 seasons. And this has really become a spring training jewel. And speaking of Japanese baseball, proliferated by Lefty O'Doul, well, here's one of those products, Hideki Okajima, who had such a big hand in the Red Sox success last year.
Well, he certainly did. The veteran played for the Yomiuri Giants for 11 years as a relief pitcher. Boy, what a year he had last year.
Peterson talking it over with Brian Schneider and Matt Wise after Wise's outing. Ralph, have you ever seen a guy like Okajima who doesn't look at home plate when he throws the ball? I mean, he looks straight down at the ground. It's got to drive you nuts as a hitter, I would think.
Yeah, it's so
that he's not looking at the plate.
You like to have him look, especially if they throw hard.
I don't know what's worse, that or having Ryan Dern out there with fogged up glasses.
I was going to bring up Dern because he was really, he was blind. And he broke his glasses one time, and he went to pick him up and stepped on them and broke them. And he went to pitch without the glasses, and the batter wouldn't get in the batter's box. And he threw it at about 100 miles an hour. That was Steve Bocco, played with the Cardinals at one time.
Well, Rusty Staub said also Bob Veal used to always get the glasses that would fog up.
Damon Easley bounces one to the hole. And Alex Cora with the perfect throw, one away.
Well, the great thing about Ryan Durham was the fact he'd come into the ball game as a relief pitcher and throw the first pitch up on top of the backstop. That got your attention right there.
That'll intimidate you. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Oh, Gary, Johan Santana just talking to the press moments ago, talking about his outing, and he said, you know what, I felt really good. First time working with Brian Schneider in a game here. And Keith, this really backs up your point. You were talking about this earlier today. He said what he really liked about working with him was being aggressive on that fastball on the inside part of the plate. He said stamina-wise, he still has a little bit more to go, but he did think his slider was better today. Overall, very pleased and very happy with the aggressiveness of Schneider's called game.
Brian Church takes the strike.
I broadcast his first game, and he threw a lot of changeup, and in this game, he threw a lot of fastballs, and he has a good one.
Yes, he does.
Church popped up his first time up. Well, this is certainly a test for Church today, facing a couple of very tough lefties in John Lester and now Okajima.
They had a nice year from the bullpen last year, and one of the big reasons why they won. Of course, we all know the big comeback against the Indians. Down 3-1 in that series, and came back and won the American League.
Well, it all turned on Josh Beckett's performance in Game 5 of that series against the Indians. If you look at Pedro Feliciano starting to stretch.
And they beat up pretty much on the Cy Younger.
Yeah, Sabathia had a great season, did not have a great postseason. 1-2 to Church. Fouled away.
Okajima's right over the top.
Look at that. Look where his head is. He's not even looking anywhere near home plate.
I think at that point your focus is going to be on the ball.
Well, you hope so.
This is with a breaking ball. It's 2-2.
Boston had two pitchers that were really tough to follow because they both pivoted towards second base before they threw home. And one was Johnny Same, the other was Louis Sion. And they would turn their body completely around to second base before they threw over the home plate.
Well, you were pointing out Brad Penny last week. Penny looks over at third base before he throws the ball.
Exactly. That was one of my great thrills when I was invited my first year to big league camp. I got to face at Al Lang Field Louis Tion, with the Red Sox then. And, you know, I was 19 years old. What a thrill that was for me to face Louis Tion.
Off the end of the bat. Okajima plays the spinner with that red glove, and there are 2 out. Well, Johan Santana was right on top of his game today. Well, using the slider, the changeup to go with a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. It's got to please that guy. That pitching has been outstanding, with the exception of Oliver Perez. All the starters who have gone out there have looked great. John Maine threw 4 hitless innings yesterday.
Well, I think going in, as you look at Rick Peterson, the pitching coach for the Mets, and Ralph, I think you agree, it's a pretty tough starting 4 the Mets can run at you. With Santana and Pedro and Perez and Maine.
Yeah, all these pitchers can throw hard. That's except Martinez, of course. And he did throw a little harder than he does now, but they really have good stuff. It's a matter of getting the ball in the right places.
And I think you're going to see Pedro throwing a little harder this year.
I think so, yeah.
He's been hitting 90 on the gun in his session.
90's plenty.
Yeah, for him.
Because it has a great change and a great curve.
I mean, his first year with the Mets, he was winning throwing 86, won 15 games.
You know, one thing about Martinez is the fact that his record, lifetime record, is better than Sandy Koufax, and that's a pretty strong statement right there.
Well, especially when you consider the era that Pedro pitched in, some of the most offensive-oriented years in baseball history.
The steroid era is what you're saying.
Okay. I'll accept that. To shallow center field, and Cora goes out to grab it to retire for gone. And so Okajima gets the Mets 1-2-3. We stay scoreless as we head to the 6th at Port St. Lucie. Changes for the Mets as we go to the 6th inning. Anderson Hernandez takes over at second base, and Fernando Martinez is now in right field. Matt Wise begins his second inning of work through 21 pitches in the 5th inning, but he'll get a second go-round here. Haven't seen a lot of relief pitchers go 2 innings. Aaron Heilman did yesterday and looked tremendous. Jason Varitek leads off in the 6th inning for the Red Sox in a scoreless game, and it takes ball 1. Well, it's a very leisurely pace to spring training. A lot of excitement here today because it's the Red Sox only visit to Port St. Lucie. But you know, these are games that ultimately have no meaning. And I say that as way of introduction to something that's become a very hot topic in the last day or so. In the Yankee Rays, I can't call them Devil Rays, I have to hold myself back. The Yankee Rays game day before yesterday, when a youngster named Elliot Johnson bowled over a young Yankee catcher, Francisco Cervelli, and broke his wrist. And Joe Girardi was adamant in talking about how that's something that just is not done in spring training. And Girardi's mentor, Don Zimmer, came out yesterday, now works for the Rays, and said exactly the opposite, that Girardi was wrong and that bowling over the catcher in a situation like that is part of the game. And I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about that, as guys who played hundreds of spring training games, as Varitek rounds out for the first down.
I will say I will certainly differ with Zimmer, because the spring training, the games mean nothing, and you should not be doing things that will maybe permanently injure a ball player and ruin his career. And there's a good chance that can happen anytime. Sort of like Ray Fosse was bowled over in an all-star game by Pete Rose, and he never was the same. He ruined his entire career. And that also was an exhibition game. It was not a game that counts. Now in a regular season, it's all right. But exhibition games, no way you want to hurt somebody by doing that, because it is legal to do. And if the pitcher is blocking the plate, it is okay. But to do that where you put a football block on him, it'd be like flipping from the back in football. It's not good. And that's my stand. I think Don is totally wrong on that.
I agree with Ralph. And another thing, too, is that you could get hurt. You know, the catcher could be, if he's got the equipment on, you could wind up hurting yourself and missing some season. And I also remember the criticism. Pete Rose was under a tremendous amount of criticism for knocking down Fosse in that All-Star.
But he was also hailed in a lot of quarters for his aggressiveness and his willingness to play all out and all that. So I think there really were two opinions on that.
And Fosse was finished after that. Fosse's career was blossoming.
Bounce foul. Let me ask you guys a couple of questions in the wake of that, okay? Because I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, the kid who ran over the catcher, this Elliot Johnson, is a youngster trying to make a team.
Yes.
You know, you can say, okay, it's a good play on June 15th, but not on March 15th. But for Elliot Johnson, if he, you know, is out at the plate, if he, well, I mean, first of all, if the plate is blocked, what's the guy supposed to do? He's supposed to slide into the shin guards. He's supposed to stop and get tagged out. What's his role in this as a young player trying to make a team?
Well, the key to that thing, Gary, is the fact that it was an exhibition game. It's not a game where it counts. You're doing something that is not illegal, but you certainly is taking it to a long, long step. Now, I'll tell you a story that happened back in the 40s when Bill Dickey, the All-American, all-time catcher for the Yankees, was bowled over by a ball player named Reynolds. And Dickey got up after he tagged him out but was bowled over. He got off the ground, got up and punched Reynolds in the face and broke his jaw. Now that's a retaliation that they had then, and that could happen, of course, now if someone do it.
That's like Ray Knight punching Eric Davis.
Right, it was retaliation.
Well, but here's the other thing. Okay, if you say that that's a dangerous play that doesn't have a place in spring training, then where do you draw the line? What about breaking up a play at second base? What about pitching inside?
Well, I think you got to take that in fact too. Not pitching inside, that's part of the game, but or was part of the game in a way for sure. But at second base, you know, you can't go out of the way and try and maim somebody at second base. We had that play last year with the Mets and Phillies, where the Mets got called for a double play by the umpire.
Well, it's a 1-2-3 inning for Matt Wise, who continues to impress. Pitching's been front and center today. No score as we go to the bottom of the sixth. This week, Jets Nation is all about the off-season action for Gang Green as the crew continues to break down all the signings and trades. It's an all-new Jets Nation Saturday at noon, only on SNY. George Kateris takes over the catching for the Red Sox. Jason Varitek gets the rest of the day off.
Which the Jets went out and spent some money, didn't they, Gar? Your Jets?
Isn't that what they're supposed to do?
Boy, oh boy. Got a whole new offensive line, just about, as well as some defensive linemen.
Brian Schneider struck out his first time up, facing Hideki Okajima, who begins his second inning. In the air to right center field, chasing Ellsbury over. One away. Well, here's Jose Reyes, a rare base runner today. That's about only 3 base runners. 2 singles and a walk against John Lester in his 4 innings. And they get to scratch against Okajima, who's retired 4 in a row. Another left-hander, Javi Lopez, up in the Red Sox bullpen. You probably couldn't find 3 more different lefties than Lester, Okajima, and Lopez to go at you in the course of an afternoon. Crowded down the berm. And Okajima had his way with Reyes. 2 out.
Little change up here. Off speed. Reyes out in front and fishing. And this has been a pitcher's duel today.
Really, the second straight day we've seen that. Yesterday, the Mets got shutout pitching from John Maine and company and blanked the Astros. Here's Brady Clark, who has one of the 2 Met hits. Single to right center off Lester back in the first. And takes the fastball for a strike from Okajima.
One of the things about spring training is that really basically spring training is for the pitchers. Hitters can get ready for the season in a very short time, but not pitchers.
You know, that's the point that Carlos Beltran was making all along this spring is, you know, he sat out the first week or so of exhibition games. He said, all I really need is the last week of spring training, and I'll be ready.
That's very true.
See Feliciano up in the Mets bullpen after Matt Wise gave them 2 terrific innings. Clark lofts one. Cora going out, and he can't get it. And Brady Clark has his second hit of the day. And both his hits have come on 0-2 pitches.
Yeah, and that pitch, he was really full with the pitch, and he reached out, and luckily, with his derriere out, he is able to get the bat and the ball and drop it inside. That was a Texas leaguer by all means.
You'll love to get those with the bases loaded.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was like Gonzalez when he did that in the World Series.
Perfectly placed. Make you a hero for all time.
Arizona against the Yankees.
David Wright takes ball one. Very strange to see Luis Gonzalez, by the way, in a Marlins uniform the other day. But it looks like he's going to be on that team.
Yes, of course he is. Yes.
He's a great guy. There's no question about that.
Well, he told me after that World Series when he had that game-winning at bat off of Mariano Rivera that he choked up back up to the label, he said.
And that was a guy who had 57 home runs that season.
There's a guy named Hack Wilson that hit 56 home runs and then dropped the next year to 13. And Gonzalez, with all those home runs, was only 1 year he did that. Anderson, that played for Baltimore, did the same thing. He had a 50 home run season.
Hack Wilson did that in the with the Cubs, correct?
Yes, he did with the Cubs in 1930.
Drove in 190 runs that year.
191.
Yeah, well, they gave him one recently.
He has an all-time RBI record.
That's the all-time record. It still holds, yes.
In the American League, it's 184 by Lou Gehrig. And Greenberg drove in 183 1 year.
And let's not forget, was that back in the days of the 154-game schedule?
154-game schedule, yeah.
Am I wrong about this? Didn't Greenberg once have 100 RBIs by the All-Star break?
Yes, he did.
And not make the
team.
Yeah.
And his manager was the manager that picked the players.
How does that happen?
Well, Lou Gehrig was playing first base.
Well, you got to have a backup, don't you?
Well, I don't understand that. He had 100 RBIs at the All-Star break.
Wright gets under one to left field. Back at the warning track, Carter has room, and that'll end the inning. Not quite enough for David on that one. Looking for his first home run of the spring. Scoreless game. Feliciano on to pitch the seventh. There's Jose Valentin taking over at first base as we go to the seventh inning. The other Reyes, or Janus Reyes, takes over at shortstop for Jose. Danny Murphy is now at third. Chris Aguila, the former Marlin, is in left field. Robinson Cancel takes over behind the plate. And Pedro Feliciano will pitch the seventh inning.
Well, Feliciano just really had a terrific year last year. And I think the big stride he made, Gary, last season was that he was primarily, prior to this, just a left-handed specialist. He got right-handers out handily last year also.
Kevin Cash leads off in the seventh inning. And takes the backdoor breaking ball for a strike. You know, it's been fascinating watching the Mets this spring, especially the guys coming out of the bullpen, because there are a number of guys fighting for slots. Over the mound, a tough play for Anderson Hernandez, but he makes it easily for the first down. We'll talk more about that in just a moment because Kevin Burkhardt's standing by with David Wright. Kevin?
Oh, David, first of all, talk about standing behind Johan today and watching him do his thing. I mean, he's really starting to get into a groove, and that's got to be fun for you.
You know, even in spring training, he brings an intensity to a game. He goes out there with a game plan, and lately he's been executing pretty well.
How about your offseason? I mean, I don't know if it's possible, but you look even more fit than you've been. Did you do anything differently offseason? And what was your plan this offseason as your replacement? Murphy will make a play here.
You know, just try to cut back on a lot of the things that didn't have to do with baseball. You know, a lot of things that, you know, made me travel around, you know, the country doing different promotional stuff or endorsement stuff. So cut that out, you know, really concentrate on getting myself in the best shape possible and use what happened at the end of last year in the back of my mind to motivate me during the offseason.
Workout-wise, were things the same for you, or did you change anything up?
You know, I try to stay active, you know, whether it's, you know, going in there playing tennis. You know, I just love to do everything that's, you know, just active, stay. I don't like going and run on a treadmill. I like to, you know, try new things out to keep me in shape. So, you as long as I can stay active, try to run around, do some different things, try some different sports.
Tennis is new for you?
Nah, a little bit of tennis, tried a little bit of boxing, just something to get my feet moving, keep me in shape.
I'm sure the Mets love that here, and then take an uppercut in the jaw. They'd love to hear that news.
I'm not getting hit. I'm not getting hit.
When you talk about, coming into this season and things changing, how about the expectations? How about the feeling, the confidence of this team? That was really the theme, I thought, of the first couple weeks of spring training, the quiet confidence of how this team was carrying themselves.
Well, you have to have that swagger. Going back to 06, we had a certain swagger where we took the field knowing we were going to beat a team. And I think that's what, we got back a little bit. The signing of Johan, what he does on the field, numbers speak for itself. Great guy in the clubhouse, great leader. But I think it gave us a lot of positive energy moving into spring training, and we needed that.
Where are you defensively right now, coming off a Gold Glove year? What do you still think you need to work on, if anything?
I need to get better, in all areas of the game, especially defensively. I think I can help the team out, even more. I go out there and get a little quicker, get to some more balls, allow Reyes to tee up get some balls on my left, work on some arm strength, accuracy over the first base. I've really been working hard, trying to get my footwork straight, ready for the season.
Is it becoming easier for you? It seems like it is.
It's never easy. We got a few guys out here that make it look easy, but it's never easy. Put in a lot of hard work, and hopefully it pays off.
You're lying, but that's okay. I know you have to say the right thing.
No, it ain't lying. Trust me. It's hard over there.
David, thanks for the time, man. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, man.
David Wright, guys, back up to you.
All right, thanks, Kevin. And Jose Valentin reels in the foul pump by Keith Ginter. So David Wright going from Gold Glove to Golden Gloves. 7th inning stretch time in Port St. Lucie with no score.
There's a great story behind that, too. He didn't get to bed that night.
No, he didn't. That's
and it
true.
wasn't because he was out cruising around. And Frank Casson, the GM of the ball club, was going to work the game on TV with me. He didn't show up, and he always showed up. And he finally showed up 5 minutes before game time. And he says, "You won't believe what happened to me." And Cohen was arrested. He came back out, and they were afraid he was going to be kept and put back in jail. Later on, he was cleared of everything. He didn't do anything wrong. But he struck out 19 batters in that ball game.
Last day of the season.
Last day of the season.
There's a kid named Dave Lindsay who caught that day for the Phillies. First appearance in the major leagues. 3 ABs against Coney, 3 punch-outs. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Sombrero.
Yeah.
But you never saw a curveball like that before in the minor leagues.
Carlos Beltrán for 2 in his initial spring game, and he lifts this one to center for Ellsbury.
I almost got arrested in London in the early 90s after I was retired.
You were a little off course, wasn't
I went to Wimbledon the year that Agassi won his first Wimbledon. And I was walking around town with my buddy, and someone had robbed a bank or an exchange station over there. That the 2 suspects were dressed like us. The guy I was with was very heavy set. I had a leather jacket on, and we fit the description, and they arrested us. They pulled us apart.
Did you?
And held us for around 45 minutes until they could get the person that was robbed and brought him, and he said, "That's not them," and they let us go.
Did you show him your baseball card?
No, I didn't. I don't carry it with me.
Jose Valentin up for the first time against the sidearmer Javier Lopez.
he? He didn't have his gold glove with him.
Valentin made his spring debut yesterday, and it was very encouraging to see Jose out there. He's wearing a lighter brace on his knee than he wore when he tried to come back last year. But just the fact that he's on the field is remarkable. He was not supposed to be able to play until at least late in spring training, and maybe as late as late April or early May. But here he is in the second week of March, out on the field at age 38 and competing for a job. And he senses the opportunity. Hits it to left field. And Carter makes the play for the second out. So 2 away. And now Anderson Hernandez will bat for the first time. strike. Willie Collazo next in line in the Mets bullpen. Anderson Hernandez getting playing time at second and short this spring. Speaking of Hernandez's, you see the comments from El Duque after he threw a side session the other day. Speculation that maybe he'd go to the bullpen. He said nope.
Oh, I know. I read that.
Orlando's starting pitcher.
And he means it.
He does mean it. And you know what? If he's healthy, he will be starting pitcher. But, you know, we need to ask Ronnie about this because obviously he has a greater area of expertise. But for a guy at this point in his career to be changing his delivery so radically.
Well, my feeling is if anybody can do it, he can do it.
Fouled off his leg. I mean, he has been known for that, you know, knee to chin leg kick his entire career, and now he's going to be doing something very different.
And it will be difficult to do because he's done it for years and years and years. It reminds me of when Dizzy Dean, who was one of the great pitchers of all time, had his toe broken and he tried to change his delivery and hurt his arm and was never the same after that.
In El Duque's case, it's a matter of that bunion on his foot. He just can't lift his heel off the ground without pain, and for that high leg kick he has to lift his right heel, and so he's had to find the modification that works, and now that leg kick only brings his knee barely below his waist. So you just wonder, at whatever advanced age Orlando Hernandez is, whether he can make that transition effectively.
And plus, he's going to be pitching with that bunion. He did not have surgery on the bunion. It's too long a rehab.
Hernandez has a base hit. We used to say that all the time. Hernandez has a base hit.
Thank you.
There's El Duque. You can see the lower leg kick, and he's still not airing it out either. So we really haven't seen him cut loose.
Well, part of his delivery is in that high knee kick. He hides the ball that way, and it's hard to pick it up. And he changes his speed so well off that.
Here's Fernando Martinez, the 19-year-old phenom.
He's been swinging the bat very good this spring.
Oh, I really like him, Keith.
I do too.
You know, watching now against this left-hander, because he didn't pull away from the pitcher at all. And that's one of the tough things to learn to do when you're a left-hand batter against left-hand pitching, because normally you don't see that many left-handers as you grow up.
You can see that front shoulder staying in. And this is not an easy left-hander. This is a submariner here. And you can tend to pull the ripcord and bail out.
Well, Fernando Martinez does not lack for confidence. He believes he'll be in the big leagues sometimes this season.
That's what he said. And he's 19 years old.
You know, here's my thought. No matter how good a spring he has, there's no way you can start.
He's got options. He's going to go down the minor leagues, and he has to play. That's the main thing. He can't sit on the bench and learn how to play baseball.
And he's looked a little raw in the outfield at times this spring, even though he's clearly swung the bat very well. Takes a strike, 3-1. But he is the prize jewel of the Mets farm system. The one guy whom Omar Minaya would not part with in the Santana trade, and he was able to do that. Hold on to Martinez and still make the deal. 3-2 to Fernando. Craig Hansen, former St. John's star, getting ready in the Red Sox bullpen. No score. We're in the bottom of the 7th. Each team with 4 hits. Anderson Hernandez gets set to take off. 3-2 and 2 down. And Martinez goes down swinging. 2 in the inning. Well, Javier Lopez comes back from 3-0 to strike out Martinez. On we go to the 8th. Mets and Red Sox still battling scoreless. We go to the 8th inning, and Willie Collazo will be the 4th Met pitcher of the afternoon.
Well, you see his numbers at New Orleans last year in AAA. 5 2/3 with the Mets, 6 appearances. last season in September.
And those numbers in New Orleans included 33 consecutive scoreless innings as Carter bounces one on 2 hops to Argenis Reyes. He throws him out, 1 away. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Gary standing by with Carlos Beltran. I got back on the field today. How do the knees feel out there?
Well, they feel sore, but I wanted to go out there today and give it a try. And, you know, I felt better than what I thought I was going to feel.
How about playing the field for you? Is that something, you know, is there a timetable on that? I know it's a little bit different stress on your knees. How do you think that'll come along when you'll get back out there in the field?
You know, right now I think playing the field is going to be different than being as a DH. Because a couple at bats, but being out there, it's going to take a lot more time because right now I'm working in the outfield, try to turn, make some turns in the outfield, and it's been sore, but at the same time I feel like I have improved a lot.
What is the most stressful thing for the knee? Is it a certain thing when you swing? Is one more painful than the other right now?
Normally it's when you start and then when you stop. You know, when you start 100%, and when you stop, you know, you got to stop like quick and make some turns. That's when it bothers me a lot. But like I said, you know, since I got here, I've been working hard. I've been, you know, rehabbing myself, and I felt like I have improved a lot. Like I said before, you know, I didn't thought I was going to be able to play this soon, and I'm just happy that I decided to go out and give it a shot.
That being said, can you talk about how much in the past the knees bothered you? When you first got here at camp, you said, you know what, I feel really good. It's a different feeling. You don't feel that tendonitis feeling there. Can you give us an idea of how much those knees did bother you the last couple of years?
They bothered me a lot, but I just decided to play through it, you know, and like I said, you know, I didn't want to go through surgery during the season. I knew that going through surgery, I was going to lose at least 4 or 5 months, and I didn't want to go through that. So I decided to play through it. And, you know, after the season was over last year, it was the perfect time for me to do it. You know, and like I said, I'm happy. I don't have the sensation that I was having when I was when I was having tendonitis, so that's a good feeling about it.
Was there concern? I mean, now you see guys getting back healthy. You're out there. Jose Valentin's back out there early. Carlos Delgado back there. So you see the guys back in, but was there a concern, or is there still a concern about the overall health of this team?
You know what? I'm not concerned. I think, you know, things happen for a reason. Delgado got hurt, got a few days off, and now he's back. I think, I mean, like I said, you know, we're going to be healthy. When the season starts, for sure we're going to be out there. We're going to be able to play every day, so and we're going to have fun.
You enjoying being a father?
I am.
Any sleep?
Yeah, I have. She sleeps well at night. You know, she's there in the stands with her mother, and it's a great feeling. You know, just being able to. I'm being blessed. I mean, I feel like I'm blessed by having that little girl.
Congrats on that, and welcome back to the lineup. Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.
Guys, back up to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Kevin. Of course, Carlos and his wife Jessica with a new addition this winter. As Danny Murphy can't handle the ground ball by Jed Lowry, and the Red Sox have a 2-out base runner. And there's another impending addition to the Mets family. Ryan Church and his wife Tina are expecting sometime later this week.
Well, Mr. Murphy makes the right play, backing up for the long hop, but he didn't stay in front. You stay in front, you can use the body too to block. And there, he played it off to the side like a matador, and it's an A5 on your scorecard.
All right.
So now George Coteras will bat for the first time. Took over behind the plate for Jason Varitek. Well, it's going to be interesting to see when Beltran finally does get back on the field. You've got 3 weeks till opening day. March 31st, and Piazza with the great pickoff move gets Lowry to end the inning. Well, DeMarlo Hale, the first base coach, believed that to be a balk. Terry Francona as well. But the beautiful pickoff move by Piazza ends the inning, sends us to the bottom of the 8th, scoreless. Well, you don't see too many calls argued by managers in spring training, but Terry Francona argued this one.
Well, it doesn't matter. Here's a better angle right here. What do you think, Ralph?
I think it's a balk, but left-handers never get called, so that's it don't make any difference. The rule says you got to step toward first base, and when they step halfway in the middle, they don't call it.
Remember one spring training they used those lines from the corner of the rubber to indicate where the balk was?
Right angle.
Joe Thurston takes over in left field.
How about when they called him? They called him one year. They called box on everybody, and the game was so long that they finally stopped doing that. Bob Shaw was one of the worst.
Except for Bob Davidson, he kept calling.
Oh, but Bob is never changing. He won't change.
Walking Bob.
All the time, yeah.
We saw Jonathan Van Every now playing center field for the Red Sox as Angel Pagan leads off in the 8th. A rare hitless day so far for Angel. He's been having a great spring training. He's already made a terrific play in the outfield. There's Craig Hansen, not one of the Hansen brothers. When they drafted him out of St. John's, the Red Sox thought that Hansen would be their future closer. Of course, that's before Jonathan Papelbon came along.
Yeah, I think Papelbon has a lock on that. What a year he had last year.
Well, remember last year, Papelbon was supposed to be a starter, and he talked his way back into the closer's job. Down the left field line, slicing toward the corner, and that's an extra base hit for Pagan. So Angel Pagan continues his wonderful month of March. A leadoff double in the bottom of the 8th.
And the one thing you gotta like about this is that he takes up the third base coach, and with nobody out, he is held up by the third base coach, and that's good news. That's the way to play. Paid attention.
So now the go-ahead run at second with nobody out, and Robinson Cancel will bat for the first time, looking to move him over. See whether Willie opts for a bunt. We actually saw Willie call a squeeze play the other day, which in 3 years as a manager, he's never called in an actual regular season game.
He and Davey Johnson. Davey Johnson, they did the squeeze play.
Red Sox look for the bunt. And Cancel disguising it. Takes outside.
It's almost like he was drag bunting.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get a base hit and move the runner over too.
Who's going to run for him?
From home to first, you mean? Robinson is not built like a sprinter. He's set to swing, and it's 2-0. Well, an indication you don't always play spring training games the way you would in the regular season.
Absolutely.
Sure don't.
Well, in a regular game, this would be the pitcher up right now, which would be an obvious sacrifice situation. Cancel hitting in the 9th position.
And time was called. I think Robinson Cancel hasn't seen 190 in a while. Just a guess. He's built like Benny Agbayani, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Very good, Darren. I'm sure Benny's very appreciative of that comment.
Hey, Benny's played very well over in Japan, playing for Bobby Valentine.
I'll never forget that play down the left field line that Benny did when he thought there was 3 outs.
Well, I was thinking, you know, the Red Sox are heading to Japan to open their season against the A's, and it was Benny who hit that grand slam to beat the Cubs the second game that the Mets played in Japan back in 2000. 2-1, Cancel fouls it off. So, no hint of a bunt in this spot. And now Cancel with a 2-2 count.
Well, Cancel, to his credit, is trying to get the runner over.
I'll say one thing, he's been really late on his swings. I mean, if you're trying to hit the right field, he's trying to hit the right fielder over his right shoulder.
Pagan at second with nobody out in a scoreless game in the 8th. And Cancel fouls it back. Jansen throwing hard, 94 on the gun. Mets and Red Sox will do it again tomorrow on the other coast. Let's see, the Red Sox flew here today. I think the Mets are busing to Fort Myers tomorrow.
That's a long trip. And let me tell you, Fort Myers is hot down in that Gulf side. It's further south. It is a smoker down there.
And he gets it to the right side. Nicely done by Cancel. Broke his bat in the process and managed to poke it down to Youkilis to get Pagan over to third.
And that's the going run at third base. A good job of situation hitting right there. He reaches out, gets it off the end of the bat, breaks the bat. It does the job of making them out that counts.
So now our Janus Reyes will try and get the first run of the game home, and the Red Sox will bring the infield in. Pagan, good speed at third. Just missed hitting him.
Well, there's no question that Chris Hansen has a good arm. Boy, he's throwing hard out there. And our Janus Reyes has been swinging the bat good in the little limited opportunities he's had.
Reyes, 25 years old, played Double-A ball in the Indians organization last year, hit .278.
Speaking of throwing hard, I'm going to have dinner tonight with a guy that's too harder than anyone I ever saw in my life. Robert Feller. Robert.
I guess that means you never witnessed Steve Dalkowski.
And I didn't see him. They say he threw it hard. Left-handed pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles, but he could never find the strike zone.
He never actually pitched in the majors, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
He could never get it over the plate.
They said that Dalkowski might have thrown 106 or 107.
They say that.
It's hard to believe.
Jim Fry told me in the hit against Dalkowski in the minor leagues, and he said when he came in the pitch in relief, everybody behind the home plate moved out. He said the entire grandstand behind home plate just left.
On the ground, coming home, and Youkilis can't get the ball out of his glove. Pagan scores. Reyes is out, but the Mets take a 1-0 lead. And it looked like Youkilis was going to have a play at the plate, but the ball stuck in his glove.
Well, on contact play here for the third base runner, on the contact, he was breaking home. A little bit of that hesitation, getting that ball out of the glove was the difference here.
And actually, Reyes is called out for running outside the lane at first base.
Pagan, nice jump on the ground ball, forces Youkilis to rush. All the little things make a difference. Things that aren't written about in the game story the next day are in the box scores.
Yeah, right there, a double, and then hitting behind the runner. They're moving over the third and scoring on the ground out.
So now Chris Aguila up for the first time. Lifts one foul. I got the numbers on Steve Dalkowski. In a 9-year minor league career, 995 innings, 1,396 strikeouts. That's 12.6 per 9 innings. But he also walked 1,354, which is 12.2 per 9 innings.
Amazing guy.
Not the guy you want to play behind. Out in the field and fall asleep.
But I'll tell you one thing about him. He was a little guy.
5'10", 170.
Yeah, he was very small. And he threw that hard.
That's amazing.
He was a great football player in high school.
I'm not sure I would want to catch his pass.
Another little guy was Billy O'Dell with the Giants.
How about Bobby Shantz?
That's right.
How about Billy Wagner? 2-2, and Aguila goes down swinging to end the inning. Well, Ralph, it has been great having you with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Gary. Great to be with you, and also with Gold Glove here. Keith Hernandez.
Mets scratch out a run. 1-0 as we go to the ninth.
Beat the traffic.
George Coteras leads off the ninth. Jesus Feliciano takes over in center field. And Brian Stokes on the mound looking to close it out for the Mets, who lead at 1-0.
Brian Stokes, you see those numbers with the Rays last year. Not impressive. tough year.
And George Coteras drives one down the right field line. And so the Red Sox get the tying run into scoring position, leading off in the top of the ninth. And Brian Stokes must be having flashbacks. Part of that 7+ ERA was from facing the Red Sox.
Well, there's a fastball right down the pipe. Up. Nicely stroked by Coteras. And he's going to be pinched run for. Who was that masked man? Ethan.
Here's Youkilis, and he takes ball one. Ryan Corey is the pinch runner, running for Coteras. Youkilis 0 for 3 today, and his inability to get the ball out of his glove produced the only run for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. And Stokes with a high strike, 1-1.
It's great having Ralph in the booth, isn't it?
It is, especially spring training games. You just love hearing about all of Ralph's experiences and stories. And up the middle, that'll advance the runner. Janice Reyes throws out Youkilis as Corey moves over to third. Geico Sports Night on SNY, the place for the latest New York sports news and all the latest on your New York sports teams. 6 p.m., 10 p.m., and 1 a.m. every night, only on SNY. So now Brandon Moss will try and get that tying run home, and the Mets will bring the infield in.
Moss 0 for 3 today.
Each team with 5 hits. Mets were able to scratch out a run in the bottom of the 8th. Red Sox trying to match it in the 9th. And a good breaking ball by Stokes. 0-1. Kevin Cash waiting on deck. Fastball, 1-1. Well, Stokes throws hard, and the Mets have been very impressed with his arm this spring. And he gets a hit on Moss, 1-2, in a spot where he would desperately love to impress with a strikeout.
No, he just threw a fastball right by him there upstairs.
One-two.
Whoa!
That one nearly got away.
Overthrew that one.
What you don't want is for that ball to end up at the backstop.
Look at Steve Delkowski fastball.
Robinson Cancel going high to get it. 2-2 now to Moss. Fouled it off. Came back off speed.
Not a good spot to throw the changeup. That was up and out over the plate.
Brian Stokes, signed by the Devil Rays as an undrafted free agent. Not too many of those guys make the big leagues. 2-2. And a good stop by Cancel to save a wild pitch. 3-2.
Boy, I'll say it's a nice play. He's set up way outside. And this ball's way over on the other side of the plate. Bad. Nice play.
Ryan Corey, the tying run at third with 1 out. 3-2 to Brandon Moss. Fouled away. This is quite an at-bat for Moss. This will be the 9th pitch of the at-bat. And he'll throw one more. Mets have had the best pitching of any National League team this spring, statistically. More importantly, they've had a lot of young arms look very good coming out of the bullpen, and some older arms as well. Ricardo Rincon, I don't know if you've gotten to see him yet this spring, Keith, but he looks like the Rincon from a few years ago. 3-2, fouled away. I mean, Rincon's a guy who's been hurt the last 2 years. He's going to be 38 next month, but for 5 or 6 years, he was one of the best situational lefties in the American League. And all of a sudden, he looks like himself again. And that could be a very intriguing possibility for the Mets.
And also, Figueroa has been throwing well.
Yeah. In the air to right, that should get the run home. Over goes Martinez as Corey tags. And the Red Sox tie up the game on a sacrifice fly by Brandon Moss. 1-1.
Well, nice at bat for Brandon Moss. Another pitch up, change up. You see the catcher, Cancel, with his glove down, telling him, get the big, I want this change up down. Something that Stokes didn't do the entire at bat. Fine at bat for Moss.
Big hopper for Reyes at short. And he throws out Kevin Cash. So each team able to execute after a leadoff double and fight that run across. Now we go to the bottom of the 9th with the game tied at 1. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, the official sponsor of Mets spring training on SNY. And by Volvo, who believe life is better lived together. Volvo for life. Changes for the Red Sox. Scott White is in to play first base. Dusty Brown is now doing the catching. And on to pitch is Yale University biochemistry grad Craig Breslow. I'm sorry, that's a little out of my league.
Well, I think nothing would be better than for this young man, Mr. Breslow, to cough up a run here.
Danny Murphy leads off in the bottom of the 9th. Robinson Cancel getting a little counsel from Rick Peterson as Murphy rips one foul. Danny Murphy, very good-looking bat. Of course, if you're a third baseman in the Mets farm system, you probably would be best advised, if you want to make it to the big leagues in this organization, to find another position. Murphy played at Jacksonville University, a teammate of Anthony Bernazard, the son of Tony Bernazard, who is one of Omar Manaya's right-hand men. Off the corner, and it's 3-1. I think Hojo's son also plays at Jacksonville, right? Lane Johnson?
I think so.
Mets drafted Murphy 2 years ago. Popped it up. Third baseman Ginter, the catcher Brown, and Ginter tripping over Brown's mask as he came.
And now there'll be a coach talking to the young catcher. Do not throw that mask, throw it out of play. And watch this. Oh boy, nice recovery.
It's fortunate that he kicked it rather than stepping on it. So one away. As Ginter survives that adventure. And now Andy Chavez will bat. in the DH spot, taking over for Beltran. Indy's first at bat of the day. Indy's spring started late after really a year full of woes. We'll talk about the hamstring he blew out last summer against the Phillies, and then he hurt the other hamstring and his ankle during winter ball, and the ankle was really the last thing to come around. But Indy's been back out there for a couple of days as Lee Gronkowitz gets up in the bullpen.
Are you sure of that pronunciation?
What else could it be?
Sounds like a mechanic.
Be interesting when he faces, if he ever gets in a big league game, if Gronkowitz faces Travis Hafner, nicknamed Pronk. Gronk versus Pronk.
Perfect.
It's like Kenny versus Spenny.
You're getting silly.
Have you seen Kenny versus Spenny?
No.
It's another TV show that you've got to see.
I'm missing out.
3-1 to Chavez. Lofted down the line. Long run for Thurston. Foul ball.
Probably a little wind aided here. That wind blowing again off the ocean. Not so strong today. So in from right field. A little bit towards the left field line. From the southeast. And there's the trees. There.
It's a great job by you, Mr. G.
But they don't have those in Colorado, those kind of trees.
What kind of trees are those?
These are what, palm trees?
Are those palm trees?
I don't know. They all look alike to me.
3-2 to Indy. To right field, and retreating is Moss to make the play for the second out. Well, let's see, there's nobody up in the Mets bullpen, so either Brian Stokes would pitch the 10th, or there'll be no 10th. You never know, it being spring training.
But they wouldn't have Gronk out there warming up if they weren't going to go another inning.
Unless Terry Francona thinks he might need a righty sometime in this inning. I don't know. Here's Jose Valentin. Are you sure, Ethan? Ethan insists that it's not Gronkowitz. It's Gronkevich.
See? You're not perfect.
But you didn't give me the alternate pronunciation. Valentin gets under one and lifts it foul. Ginter going back hoping for a play, but it's toward the tiki bar.
How was that pronunciation again?
Gronkevich.
Like Mankiewicz.
Right.
Mankiewicz, yes.
Where's Mankiewicz? Does he still have a job?
I have no clue. There's Ethan.
There's Ethan.
Ethan Wade, come on.
The king of pronunciation.
Ethan.
Look, he's hiding now.
Ethan should come on the road with us.
We'd show him a good time.
We're getting in trouble.
1-1 to Valentin, who takes the fastball high.
Now you're back for good now, right? You're not going to take any more vacations this spring here?
I don't know about for good. I'll be around. I've had fun today. Way up high into the backstop. No, I think Kevin's in here on Wednesday. I'll be back next weekend. Got to go to New York for the Big East tournament.
Oh, that's right.
Seton Hall qualified despite a dreadful loss yesterday to Rutgers.
Yeah,
oh, boy. Doesn't get any worse than that. 3-1. Pop foul. That'll go out of play. And a full count to Valentin. Valentin batting left-handed yesterday in his first game of the spring. Hit one to the fence in right field. And batting right-handed in his only at-bat in this game, hit the ball well to left. So whatever weakness he still has in that right knee, It doesn't appear to be affecting his swing right now. Probably more of an issue in the field. 3-2 to Jose. Popped it up. Coming back is Brown for a look, but it's out of play. Most of the 7,355 have remained the entire afternoon. Record crowd here at Tradition Field. Temperature in the low 70s. Not as much wind today as we've had in some recent games. (3-2). Pulled it foul. Down past Sandy Alomar. Well, there are guys sitting on the bullpen bench, which makes you think there are more pitchers available. In the Red Sox bullpen, it's Gronkevich, and there's nobody else left. See the bullpen benches there? They're vacant. Yeah. So it's Gronkevich or bust.
Or Claude Rains.
Popped up. This one should stay in play for Dusty Brown. Watch out for that weighted bat, and he can't catch it. Well, you've already had Brown's mask almost trip up Ginter, and now you have the weighted bat impede Brown, all in the same inning.
The gods are against him.
At least he got the mask out of the way. Rough inning for Dusty Brown. So Valentin remains alive. Does not appear to have been an error charged on the play.
Oh, catcher did it.
Ball 4. That was a pretty good leather lung right there.
Oh,
thank goodness he didn't say anything nasty.
You can't have rabbit ears, that's for sure.
So the Mets get the potential winning run aboard. And Anderson Hernandez will try and make something of it. Hernandez had a base hit and was only at bat in the 7th. Each team with 5 hits, each team with 1 run. Bottom of the 9th in Port St. Lucie. Mets are 8-4 on the spring. In fact, they've won 7 of their last 8. Changeup misses from Breslow.
Well, they had that 6-game winning streak after they lost the first 3. They had that stacked with that hideous game the other day that you came for.
The Saturday game, yeah. Line and caught by the shortstop Cora. And that will send us, presumably, to extra innings. Willie Randolph making the 10 sign to Terry Francona as if to say we'll play 1 extra inning. Okay, gotcha. So we go to the 10th inning, and Brian Stokes, who gave up the tying run in the 9th, will stay on to pitch the 10th for the Mets. And Alex Cora leads off for the Red Sox 0 for 3 today. Whacks it foul. Johan Santana started, went 4 tremendous innings, allowed just 2 singles, didn't walk a batter, struck out 4. Matt Wise turned in 2 terrific innings, no runs, 2 hits. Pedro Feliciano pitched a 1-2-3-7. Willie Collazo pitched the 8th. Base runner got aboard on an error, and he picked him off. And then Stokes gave up the leadoff double to Coteras in the 9th, and that led to the tying run. And Cora takes a letter house strike, 2-2. Slapped to short. Argenis Reyes off the bag, and a nice tag by Valentin. It's a play that Valentin does not have to make a whole lot because he hasn't played very much first base.
Well, you're right about that. Valentin, of course, a shortstop, moved over to second base, so he came over to the Mets. And he's used to making tags.
I'm not sure if he did on that.
Well, I hear you.
He played 1 inning at first base for the Mets 2 years ago. That's the only inning he played at first in a regular season game in his major league career. Keith Ginter's gone 0 for 3 today, playing third base. And Ginter hits one over the mound. Another play for Reyes. And handles this one cleanly, 2 away. So Stokes getting a couple of ground balls. And Joe Thurston will come up for the first time. Thurston, a number of years back, was a young second baseman with the Dodgers, whom they were touting as the next big thing, and never quite was able to fulfill the promise. And he has kicked around quite a bit over the last half dozen years. Now in camp with the Red Sox. Grounded down to first, and a nice spinning play by Valentin. Oh, looked like a first baseman there. So Valentin distinguishing himself with that big first baseman's mitt. Nice sit spin on that bad knee. To the bottom of the 10th, still tied at 1. Last of the 10th and final inning here in Port St. Lucie, and Lee Gronkevich comes on to pitch for the Red Sox. He's Blue Jays organization last year.
Nice numbers there on the AAA level in Syracuse. Are they digging out in Syracuse right now? Up in Syracuse and Buffalo and Cleveland?
A lot worse in, Cleveland and Columbus. They got hit the hardest with that the late snowstorm.
Worst blizzard in almost over 100 years.
Fernando Martinez will try and end it for the Mets.
Well, Mr. Kiner gave this young man a high praise.
If Ralph says you can hit, you can hit.
Ralph says, I like this kid. Well, that's high praise. And I agree.
Fernando Martinez battled against the side-arming lefty Javier Lopez in his first at-bat. Worked him to 3-0 and then struck out. And Gronkevich pulling the string, and it's 0-2.
High change out in front.
Gronkevich pitched collegiately at South Carolina, was undrafted. Signed by the Indians as a free agent. Curveball struck him out. Big slow hook from Gronkevich to get Martinez for the first down.
Got the bat level. Oh, he just got full there.
Tied in knots.
That happens.
So 1 away. Now Jesus Feliciano will come up for the first time. Feliciano has kicked around in his professional career. He's not a youngster by any means, 29 years old. Originally signed by the Dodgers. Up the middle. Nice stop. Oh, and he got him. That's Thurston, who moved to second base this inning. And that always was Joe's position. And he looked like a second baseman on this play.
Well, nice dive. Now he's off balance. The throw is spectacular. Off balance, falling backward. And threw it right on the money. And here's the play in its entirety. Nice play.
So Thurston throws a gem. Now there are 2 out, and Robinson Cancel up for the second time. Pops it up in foul ground. Dusty Brown sheds the mask. No back to trip over, and we will end in a tie this afternoon in Port St. Lucie. We presume. And Willie Randolph gives the "We're done" sign. Everybody shakes hands, and, well, in hockey they say it's like kissing your sister. What do they say in spring training when you play to a tie?
Like kissing your sister.
Well, there you go.
I never had one.
So you wouldn't know.
I always wanted a sister. Seriously.
So the Mets play to a tie this afternoon with the Red Sox. Who's the tying pitcher? These things confuse me. Mets get 4 tremendous innings out of Johan Santana. The Red Sox get likewise out of John Lester. Just a very well-pitched game on both sides.
Well, both pitchers were impressive. Santana, 4 strong innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks. He doesn't walk people. That's par for the course for him. And 4 strikeouts. He's a strikeout guy. There's the 2 pitching coaches there, John Farrell, the Red Sox, and Rick Peterson. But Santana was throwing hard today, Gary. That's the one thing I liked. He threw predominantly fastballs. It set up his great changeup, but he was clocked 91, 92, 93. So he's getting in mid-season form.
So, once again, our final score this afternoon here at Tradition Field. The Mets and the Red Sox play to a 1-1 tie. Be sure to join us for our next broadcast on Wednesday at 1 o'clock when the Mets play the Baltimore Orioles. Now for Keith Hernandez, Ralph Kiner, and Kevin Burkhardt, I'm Gary Cohen saying so long from Tradition Field.